So we are live on Facebook and we are also recording.
Okay.
And I am going to go ahead and share it to a couple pages real quick, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Hello, everybody who's joining in. We will get started in just a minute. If you guys can help us out by sharing this to your page and in any groups you guys may be a part of. And we will get started. We got a couple people on with us already. Hello, guys. Feel free to say hello and welcome. We welcome any comments as well. Okay, be right back.
Okay.
Okay, I am back and we are going to get started. So I'm going to introduce the show real quick, guys, for anybody who may have not watched yet. My name is Marissa Barrera and we are hosting the 12th episode of Voices of Strength, where we are sharing the stories of those killed by police as we speak directly to their impacted family members. My name is Marissa Barrera and my brother was killed in 2017 by Woodland Police. And I created this show to give the families a platform to share their stories and their experiences. As many times when people are killed by police, they get swept under the rug and attempted to be covered up. But we have many impacted family members who are fighting back, who are sharing their loved ones' stories, and who we are not going away. If any other impacted families are here, feel free to say hello and share your loved one's name with us too. The point of this show is not just about our individual loved ones, but it's about all of our loved ones and all of the victims to police brutality and killings. So this week we are focusing and highlighting the life of Jacob Dominguez. He was killed by San Jose police, and his aunt, Rosie Chavez, is here to share with us. Rosie, go ahead and just give a brief intro and say hello, please.
Hi, y'all. It's Rosie, Jacob Dominguez's aunt. I've been organizing and being an activist in his voice since the day he was taken from us. I also am involved with Silicon Valley Debug that's helped us through the process since the day he was murdered.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you. And so every notes just throughout this, we will be sharing about Jacob. We will share more about what the family experienced. We'll also be sharing some photos as we are speaking. If there are any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments. We sometimes don't see them right away with the way the lives work, but we will get back to them. And thank you again for everybody that's on. We have 13 people on right now, 14. And we thank you guys for being here and supporting and listening to the families. So I like to start these off by, of course, focusing on our loved ones and who they were as a person. A lot of times people will just hear the narrative of the police officers, and a lot of people don't realize that these are real people that are being murdered. These are our family members. These are our loved ones. So that being said, we would love to hear some more about Jacob. I know you were very close to him, Rosie, very close. It reminds me of my relationship with my niece, just always been close. So we want to hear some more about Jacob and who he was. I feel like he was probably the life of the party, and you know, looked like he brought a lot of happiness. So share some things with us, please.
Well, Jacob was born as my sister's first son, the first grandson, first nephew, and he was our light. He was, you know, it was like back then it was more like he was a little brother. I was 13 when my sister had him, so he was a little brother. We loved having him. He was our joy. He was everything to all of us, and he was a good kid. He grew up. Loved playing baseball, played football. We did everything we could to make sure that she could put him in a lot of sports, and supporting her and helping her in any way we could. We always, my mom, everybody, I mean, it was just a whole support, that my sister had when she had him, and we loved him. I mean, and as we got older, he turned more into I remember getting married, and my ex having a daughter, and I remember saying, well, when you get married, you accept the kids, right, that they have. And so Jacob was not, I was already older, so I was like, hey, he's my nephew, but he's like my little boy, so you need to accept him when I take him, when I do this. And he did, and he accepted him, and he played baseball with him, played football with him, he did things with him as well. And that's probably about the only ex that he calls uncle. But he was just that kid. He was the light. He was all our light. He was good. He started getting in trouble as a young teenager, but again, he was still the respectful, loving kid. There's nothing he wouldn't do or say, that was disrespectful. He was always well-mannered and well-dressed. My sister had him well-dressed. Cleaned up tight, everything. She had him dressed. And then, we're close. We're a close-knit family. There's 5 of us siblings with my sister, and we were close in all. And even when she got pregnant and having her little girl, Jacob was like, oh, a little girl, what am I gonna do? A little sister, they're 9 years apart. But oh my God, she was his everything as well. She doesn't call him Jacob. It's crazy because I used to tease her. I said, she calls him Babes. And so ever since she was little, that's his name to her. It's Babes. You talk about him now, it's still Babes. And I used to tease her. I said, you're going to get older and people are going to think you're his girlfriend. You call him Babes. But that's her nickname, and that's their nickname for each other. And, like I said, Jacob, as time went on, he did get in trouble. His father was in and out. I'm not going to say he was totally out, but he was in and out of his life. And Jacob, like I said, he started going down the wrong path and went into the ranch, went into juvenile hall. Eventually, he ended up picking up his first and only prison term at the age of 19. And he was gone for 6 years. And I was so worried about him going to prison for his first time, a young man. Yeah. And so he came out, tattoos and everything. And, he, at the time he was in there, he did get married before he went away, and he got married, and he came out, and him and his wife started a family. It took him about a year to get a job, helped him get a job with glazier work. So he was doing that. He became a foreman. I mean, they had kids, they have the first one, and then they had in 2010, and then a few years later, they had a few more back to back. I call them the Irish twins. And he did, he stepped up, it was hard. He was adjusting though, he was adjusting to everything. And when he first was looking for a job, he said, I'm not going to be able to get a job. People look at my tattoos, they judge me for what I look like. I said, you got to keep trying. You got to show them your work. You got to show them that you're capable and that you're a hard worker. And he did land that job with the glazier and company, and he did great. He made it to foreman, and then as time went on, I want to say it was almost 5 years working with them. He ended up getting laid off, work got slow, and then he struggled. for about another year finding something. And that's when all this happened. Within that year, he was struggling, and he, again, he didn't, Jacob was just, like I said, I have younger kids. I mean, well, they're younger than him, but he was their big brother, not cousin. He was taught them like, hey, this isn't your lifestyle. This isn't what you do. I don't want to see you in prison. I want you to go to college. I want to see you, doing good. And he always like, listen to your mom. Anytime I'd had problems, I want to call Jacob.
Oh, Jacob, yeah.
Call Jacob.
Aw.
And they listened. He's like, this is what you need to do. Listen to your mom. That's just the kid he was. So respectful. Even, like I said, even as an adult, that's just the way he was. You gave him respect, he gave it to you right back. But I mean, he was going to church. I remember him going to church, and I would go as well with him at times. And he would have no problem praying and being up at the front of the altar and praising God and asking for prayer and having the anointed. And we have a couple of videos that I didn't know, but he was at a cousin's house, and he walked up to a pastor that was doing church outside at a park, and it made me cry. It made me cry because I said, no matter what lifestyle he went down, the path he went down, he still had his love for God. He still had his spiritual, part of him. And it showed right there. None of us were around. It was just the middle of a park, and he went up there and you could see it. I mean, I call it the angel in the outfield, because you see him coming from the outfield and he walks up to the pastor. But Jacob was an all around good person, took care of his family, took care of his anybody, family, friends, anybody that he loved or they loved him. I mean, it's a loss. It's a real big loss to all of us 3 years later, and we're still struggling. His grandma is at the cemetery every day since the day he's passed. So that's my mom, and it's what she wants to do, and we can't tell her anything different, but it's hard for us, to see her there too every day. So it's, yeah. So,
thank you for sharing all that. That really, a lot of things you shared, I know a lot of people could relate. Even sad to say, we know how the prisons and the system are these days. A lot of young men end up there. And I can relate to that, having family members. My brother at the age of 19 also, served time. And I'm sure you could relate. You mentioned, you're so worried about him. I felt like at that time I felt that was the hardest thing that I had ever been through, losing my brother through that, and just having to know where he's at every day and worry every day. So I think back like, okay, that happened. I thought that was the worst. And then this happens to our families too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. He also made a documentary, Making of a Gangster. No One's Born a Gangster, and that documentary was about a year before. It was out a year before he. If you see in the back, that's the he, and I honestly say after they killed him, we had nothing except for what the media puts out there, their narrative, the cops' narrative. And, it was just us saying, no, he was a good kid. He was a good guy. He was a good person. But this video, this documentary actually humanized him. And we got a lot of people, and the man that did the documentary said, a lot of people asking about Jacob. A lot of people are saying that he touched them. And you could see the sincere love that he had for his kids and his family, and how he was just trying to make a change in his life to walk another direction. But, that documentary was like, it came out and it, like I said, totally humanized him.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you about that as well, to share stuff. So thank you for bringing that up. I have seen clips of that you guys have shared. And I'm glad you guys have that, documented, and the people that worked with him to make it. I think all of us, and there are a lot of impacted families watching right now with us, all of us can relate to that and how they dehumanize our loved ones. And we're just left here defending them because we actually know them. And I'm glad you guys have that. And if there's a link, if that's available online, we definitely will share that afterwards. I'll connect that to the post in this video so people can watch. My goodness, that's a lot. So thank you for sharing about that and his kids and his family, and even the detail about your mom being there, the cemetery, you know, every day. I sometimes think like my grandmother, you know, it makes me think of her, and just I've thought to myself, like, are they going to pass without seeing any type of justice for, you know, our loved ones? And you know, it's really hard. So thank you for hitting how deeply it impacts the whole family.
It's hit us a lot. I mean, his kids, I mean, not only his mom, it's her only son. I mean, she struggles daily, you know, but it's also his kids. Nobody sees the aftermath of the trauma that they've endured. And, you know, the oldest, who's now 11, knows how he was taken, but doesn't know details. The other ones don't know, they just know that daddy's in heaven, daddy's with God, you know, but there's trauma that they've had to endure, and the changes they go through, and everything that they've been doing. Like, one's angry, one's sad, the baby girl still asks for him every, you know, Christmas, or every now and then if she sees a video, she's like thinking daddy's coming home. Look, he's, you know, because she sees movement in the video, so she thinks he's alive and he's going to come through the door. So it's, and like I said, in the middle one, the son, he's angry. So nobody understands. And then they don't get them offered, you know, any type of counseling or, you know, services for these kids. They're the victims here. They're the ones left fatherless. And, you know, now they just made them another statistic, and that's sad. You know, I don't want to see them. We're a strong family, and so is, you know, his wife's family. And so, you know, they're doing their best to just keep them grounded, but there's nothing like missing their dad every day. So.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that as well. The kids left behind. That's one of the biggest things, their children, you know, especially when they have fathers that were there and love them, you know, were part of their lives, just be taken that way. We got a lot of kids hurting and
left behind. Yes.
And you're right, there is nothing for them. There's nothing to assist the families. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to read a couple comments and just address them. Then we'll kind of get started, how you guys found out and just a little more about that. We got a bunch of impacted families saying hi. So hello to you guys. And then a question about if the video is accessible, the documentary. So we will add that to here. And yeah, just support here right now. So let's go ahead and let's first start just how you guys found out, how the family found out, and then we'll you can share next the narrative that they first released, and then I want you guys to share your guys' truth.
Okay. So on September 14th, actually 15th, yeah. It was about 4:30 in the morning. I got a phone call. During that day, I had just went to church and had a really good vibe going, and you know, they had this real thing going on, and I came home, and you know, Facebook can kind of you can get the little negative stuff on there. So I was feeling my positivity, so I didn't want to go on so I seen, officer involved shooting, but I just closed it and I said, I'll look at it later. You know, I'll look at it tomorrow morning. I was going to bed. I get a call at 4:30 in the morning from a family friend from his wife's side of the family. And he had said, "Hey, Rosie, did you hear about Jacob?" And I would always text him to say, "Hey, have you heard?" You know, if we didn't hear from him, we were like, "Hey, have you heard from him? Can you have him call us or text us and stuff?" So I was like, "Oh, well," I just go, "What?" You know, I was kind of already on the defensive with him, like, "What?" And he goes, "Did you hear about the shooting?" And I'm like, And I got up screaming and running. I had my 10-year-old at the time sleeping with me. And I must have scared the crap out of him, but I woke up, ran down the hallway screaming. My older son comes out of the room, and I told him, no, 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 it's not him. No, it's not. No, I just was persistent, and you need to call, you need to make sure. I can't tell his mom this. What about his wife? And he's, we both get off the phone. My son takes the phone away from me because I was just a mess. And we call, I guess we both spontaneously called the coroner's office at the same time. He was able to get through first, and he was able to describe Jacob's tattoos to him. And he called me. I called right again. I got through the coroner's, and he said, I just got off the phone with that family member, and he described his tattoos, and sorry that I have to confirm that it was him. And I was like, okay. I had to compose myself. I was crying, and I said, I had to start calling the family. I had to call my mom. I had to call my sister, and my brother. And I said, we gotta go. I told my son, we have to go tell Auntie, which is his mom. I go, have to go tell Auntie Cindy. We have to go get her. We have to go tell her. She's working. And I walk in, she's working graveyard at a store. And I walk and she's walking up, and it's crazy how you remember the little details, but you can kind of forget pieces. But she's walking up with milk, and she's all like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, it's Jacob. And she's like, what about Jacob? And I said, I was trying to get her to come out because she was halfway in the door and halfway out the door of the store. And she's like, what? And I said, they killed him. She's like, I think she was in shock still, but at the same time, I remember her going like halfway in and out, and she's like screamed at her manager, I gotta go, they just killed my son. And I wanted to drive for her. She didn't let me drive. We went down to her apartment, which was less than a mile away. And I mean, just the screams and the crying and everything, to have to hear. We all gathered at her house. All the family came together. It was, again, having to call everybody was really hard, and we were there. She tried to go to the police station. They weren't going to give her any information. Of course not. It's just a day I just like, it's just pieces and pieces come back to me, but it was a hard day to find that out. And we didn't find out through the cops. We didn't find out through nobody being sent our way. We found out through the streets. The streets is what told us. They called that family member, and that family member called that family, and they're like, hey, it was Jacob. And again, with no confirmation from the cops or anything, because to them it's an ongoing investigation. They didn't want to tell us anything. And it was hard. It was really hard till that next morning. We sat there just crying, and nobody calling us, nobody telling us anything. And we called out to the media because we started seeing officer involved shooting and this and that. And so we're like, we're that family. They hadn't put his name out yet, but at least they hadn't, but we had. And I called the media, and we wanted to share, that's not who Jacob was. This is who Jacob was. Jacob was doing this, Jacob was doing that. He was, a father, he was a husband, he was a son, so we put that out. And that's probably about the only time I really talked to the media. After that, I don't trust the media. I never have. And so, but we wanted to tell our side and humanize him compared to what they would. And it was 2 days later when the police department held their press conference, and that's exactly what they did. They dehumanized him, went off his past, went off this, went off that. But he was unarmed. They wanted to say he was this, known to be armed, again, he hadn't been in trouble in 14 years, so it's crazy how they went there and did that. And me and us and our family not ever experiencing something like this, or knowing a family that this was really hard for us to take in, but I only went on the one time with the media, and that was it. Then we started seeking attorneys, and that's what we went from there, and got involved with Debug, who actually told us what steps to do. So when I met Lori and other families impacted in our city to guide us through what we needed to do. And so my sister and his wife were the ones saying, I need you to talk, I need you to do this. So I took that on for my sister and I said, I'm not stopping. We're going to keep going with this, and so, whatever they want is what I do. And so everything goes through them at times, when I need to put his stuff out there, it's through them because they're still hurting. We're all still hurting, but I have to be out there. I have to do it. I don't want Jacob just to be known as this known gang member, so that's not who he was to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I shared it on my post, and I want to share with people watching is Jacob was killed months late after my brother, just several months after my brother was killed. And you guys held something at the park.
Yeah, we had a fundraiser at Paquesto Park.
Yeah, so that was the first, and it put me in my feelings. I was crying. I was there. It was the first impacted family type of event or action that I went out to support in person. And it just really, I remember that's first families I met there were Lori Valdez and Kia. And I remember just looking at them as I'm looking at your family, and, it brought back everything. I've lived that. And I remember looking at Kia like, oh my gosh, it's like, this is real. Like, it happens often, and she's just like, yeah, and it's really hard every time. So I'll always remember that, seeing the kids, seeing his wife and you guys, and just, it's really hard. Goodness. So thank you for sharing all that, and stepping up for the family. I've kind of done the same in our position, been the one to speak, but of course our family is behind us. And but it's good to see when the victims have families that are out there speaking and sharing. And I wish, there are a lot of them without it. So that's why people like us, when we share, we're speaking for everybody too, as we go along. And everybody,
I've said to him, to a lot of his friends, a lot of family, I don't just do this for him. There's a lot of Jacobs out there, and I do it for that. And working with DBUG and working with the criminal justice system, I see so much. There's so much injustice. It's just ridiculous. And I just don't do it for him. I do it for our community, everybody that has to suffer this way as well. And I don't want them to suffer this way, and trying to guide him and telling them what to do, what not to do, the do's and don'ts, because that's how we learn, right? It's how we learned. I noticed you had put something up earlier on your Facebook, like, don't ever talk to the cops. Exactly. Don't talk to the cops. You do not have to talk to the cops. When your family member has been killed, they tend to try to take them away and try to interview them. You do not have to say anything to them. So they didn't do that with us. They kind of kept away from us. A lot. They kept away from us a lot. They didn't even bother us. Again, nobody has ever came to us to formally.
They never reached out or anything.
Never. Anybody from the police department has never formally came to us and told us we lost our loved one to, nothing. So that's just to tell you, it's crazy how this works, but it was something I never saw our family us in these shoes, but we are. And like I said, until my last breath, I won't stop keeping his name out there and being a voice for our family and him.
Yep. Thank you. And so before we get into like what you guys have found out to be the true story, because we know this takes time, they don't give us a true story. Sometimes we have to wait for years to get bits and pieces of evidence. And I do want to share too how you said they immediately, villainized him and everything. And it pisses me off as I was, looking at pulling up his name. Every time before I do a show, I always bring up, just to read up on it a little bit. And with Jacob, when I first heard about it, one of those first ones where I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, I could tell, you could tell by some of the wording that they use. And one of them said, a fugitive, ex-fugitive or something like that. They're just trying to put all these really horrible things out there. But then when it comes down to it, he was unarmed. They were in unmarked cars, undercovers. They boxed him in. It's just bullshit. So let's get into, you know, what you guys, how you guys started finding out more truth and what you guys know to be, what you guys have uncovered since then.
So about 4 months after he had been killed, like I said, I got involved with Silicon Valley Debug, and then that's when a lot of the justice families, impacted families, were pushing for the 1421. And during that time, I joined it. I hopped right into it, and I started, hey, that's what I'm going to do. We're going to make changes around here. We need changes, you know, and we need to find out if an officer, what they have in their background, what's going on with them, you know. And so I got involved with that, and that's what gave us a little more, because they weren't giving us anything. We didn't have anything. We didn't have anything but what you've seen on the, you know, looking up the report. We didn't have anything. So when we did receive the 1421, which was like a year later, almost, yeah, a year later.
After you guys replied, requested it?
Yeah. We got more details. I mean, before it was a year and a half later that we actually got a little bit of details, like only a 9-page report from the DA's office, justifying it, which was all bullshit. 9 pages, that tells me they didn't do a thorough investigation. They did some bullshit investigation. Bullshit. Yeah. So, you know, 9 pages, no. So that was 18 months after he had gone that we got a little bit of stuff. And then it took a little bit of time after that we got the 1421. And that gave us more details and more information on everything. But again, what they had put out there was just ridiculous. It was like, that doesn't justify the reason for killing him and murdering him. You know, that doesn't make them the judge, jury, and executioner to take him out. This covert response unit, I want out. I don't want, you know, our communities being terrorized by a covert response unit and just going into being able to shoot, kill, you know, and terrorize our people. So that I didn't know about the covert response unit, but to me, it seems like they're a hit squad. There is no, you know, they just murder out there and do it, and they don't have to answer to nothing. You know, so what we did know is that Jacob was being followed or surveillanced or whatnot for prior crimes that were done in the community, but he was just a suspect. He wasn't, you know, a person that actually that they said did it. He was a suspect. So I'm like, okay, when is a suspect now being murdered? You know, that was just not right. So we found out that you know, that the crimes that were committed, they had already had those individuals in custody when they killed Jacob. Wow. So yeah, and they knew that it wasn't him that did the crimes. They knew that these people that they had already in custody were the persons responsible for the crime. Wow. So that really pissed us off even more, you know. Again, they only put their first narrative just to get the community scared, or we got a criminal off the street. No, he wasn't a criminal. You know, did he have a background? Yes. Did he have a past? Yes. He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't that criminal that they were trying to scare the community be. We then, his wife was able to obtain a lawyer, and we were going through that. We don't get too much because she's still fighting it, but I can be the voice because she's not talking about anything. Yeah. But you know, he was surrounded by cops as they were following him, and they never put their lights on. They were unmarked cars. There was another person that was with him in another car. He went one way, Jacob went another. Like they said, they were unmarked cars. They didn't realize they were cops. They didn't know who they were. And even in one of the news reports, one of the witnesses had stated that she didn't know it was a cop, that she just seen it was maybe a road rage, and that these people got out with big guns and started shooting, you know, and it wasn't until after they shot that she seen the lights go on. So, you know, they can always fix that to the way they want it. And when you look at the DA report, they didn't use that witness. They used the witnesses that made their story look good, you know, and fit their story and fit. But hers wasn't included. Her statement, her being a witness was not included in the DA report, which was a crock of shit, you know, because she was one of the witnesses that said she had seen it and seen a lot of it, and how she thought it was a road rage. She didn't realize it was cops until after she heard the first shot, and then she got out of there. But it's crazy, you know. He was boxed in. He was nowhere to go. There was nowhere for him to go. He was boxed in. And if they were surveillancing him like they said they were, they would have known. Jacob had just given his mom a scooter because he had surgery on his leg, so he couldn't run. He could, you know, he still walked with a limp. I mean, he had just given her the scooter like a week before. So there was no way he was going to get out of there or anything. If they were surveilling him, they knew that he couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because what we find out is Officer Pina is the one that did the shooting. And but out of all the officers, which was, I don't know, there must have been 8, 10 officers there, only he did the shooting. Why wasn't the less lethal, you know, approach, which was the flashbang, and you know, and it was within 20 seconds, you know. And when they said, you know, he supposedly read his lips and told him, "Fuck you, bitch," I'm like, really? That gave you a reason to shoot him? You know, he slightly moved his hand. And if you watch the video and you really listen, which is really hard for me to do, even to read the 1421, you can
Yeah.
hear the music full blast.
Wow.
And so can you imagine he's like, maybe, you know, I say he was putting his hands to lower their music because it was the right hand.
Mhm.
But a slight move and they killed him. There was no other way, you know. And then to say, you know, they wanted to let the community feel like, oh, he was, you know, known to be this, known to be you know, armed robber or whatever. It was untrue. It was so untrue. And they did that just so that they could justify what they did. And it was just, yeah, I mean, and then we find out later, you know, that they did use excessive force after, you know, they had already killed him. They killed him with the AR-15 straight to the head. It
Oh
went
my
in
God.
by his mouth and out his head and the back of his head. And then they ended up using the dog when
Oh
he was
my
already,
goodness.
yeah, when he was already dead. And so that was already enough to us to accept the way they killed him, and then to take in another, like, they just brutalized his body even more and didn't give a shit what they did to his body, you
My
know. And
goodness.
it was really hard when we had to bury him and have a service for him, because that was a part we didn't know about until, honestly, until the day before we were getting ready to bury him. I
Oh
mean,
my
we
goodness.
knew nothing about the mauling that they allowed the dog to do to
So
him.
was it the funeral home that told you guys?
My sister went and got his clothes ready, and she went to take him. We dressed him as normal as possible because that's just, Jacob was never really one to be dressed in a suit or tie all the time, unless it was like, you know, a wedding. But so she wanted him just in a t-shirt and, you know, jeans and hat like he normally wore. And when she went in there, the mortuary had told him he needed something to cover his neck. And she's like, why? She's like, this is what I want. And he goes, no. And then they explained it to her, and it killed us. I mean, it just, man, that was just, if it wasn't one blow, it was another, you know, to find out they mutilized him, you know, the way they did. It was like, wow, really? It's bad enough you already shot him and killed him, and then you come on, you know.
That's horrible.
It was
I'm so
horrible.
sorry to hear that. And then again, you guys didn't even get this info from, nothing again from the police or the investigating agency, I'm gonna assume. It's not the first time I've heard of family members explain something similar to where they didn't find out about certain damage until the funeral home told them right before the funeral. So
Yeah,
gosh, it's
that
one of
was
those details.
one of those details. What wasn't put out in there, you know, wasn't put out in the media, wasn't put out in the police, didn't say anything about that. They didn't say anything, you know. It's crazy.
And people will never hear these sides of our stories because they're automatically going to believe the narrative of most people. But a lot of people are starting to see the truth, and the more victims there are, and the more families like us that are speaking out.
Mhm.
um but it's some bullshit what they do and what they
Oh
did to your
yeah,
family.
definitely.
I'm gonna just scroll through. We got a lot of comments, so I'm not gonna be able to hit all of them, but I'm just gonna kind of scroll through a couple. Thanks again to everybody watching and offering support We have 30 people on with us live right now. So thank you guys all. Let's see, many impacted families sharing some comments. Let's see. Thank God for the bravery of this woman. That's you. That's from Patrick. He also asked, were any police suspended? And we have someone who responded who said no, which also.
No, they get a paid vacation, which I think needs to be taken away.
Yep. So for anyone who might be watching that isn't familiar, this is the normal routine. They get a paid vacation. They don't get in trouble, and they often get awards and or promotions. Yeah, we got a lot of comments, people sharing, just, everybody's listening and hearing you and understanding. Sadly, a lot of them are relating. So, yeah, just lots of love. Okay, guys, I can't read them all right now. There's so many.
That's the sad part, how we all can relate. And that's the sad part, a lot of us don't have, a lot of family members that lose their loved ones don't have the strength. And believe me, it takes a lot for me. Every time there's another killing, every time there's another, police killing, it triggers, my anxiety comes up, when reporters want to talk to me about it or anything like that. It does bring a lot. It brings up everything I have to relive, and and I have to tell the story over and over again, and that's okay. I'm getting used to it, but it still doesn't. I still go through the emotions. I still get triggered. I still have anxiety. I still cry. I still, break down. But like I've said, until my life's dying breath, I won't stop. I won't stop. It needs to be out there, and then some families don't have the strength to do it, and I'm here to support any families that are needing that support, just like Lori did for us and Debug did for me. We would have been lost. We would have been lost not knowing what to do. We wouldn't have known what to do. And so a lot of insight, a lot of support through Debug. And now that I work with Debug, we also hold meetings every month for families impacted here in our community. And every month we strategize on what we can do locally and statewide, to change things, and so we do a lot of work, and I like being involved. I love being involved.
That's awesome. And I do want to just give an extra shout out to Debug, and I've heard a lot of great things about them from families. So, and I also want to commend you, your life has changed, and you put yourself in a position to continue your work and the work for Jacob, and make it work for you. And also, I really admire how the families out there are holding those meetings, how you guys are supporting each other. And Lori has shared a little more with me about what you guys have done, and how you guys gather with the meetings. And I think that's awesome. I think it's fucked up that there are so many families in that area, but we got to keep pushing and supporting each other. And also how Lori took the family under her wing, and shared her knowledge and experiences, and you're saying you offer that help to other families. I think that's a big part of what this is about, because we don't have any support. And there are some families on right now who are newer families too, and have been watching the show, because they're learning everything right now. So just a reminder to people watching too, and that's something else that this series is about us uplifting each other, our loved ones. And when we share our stories and what we went through, different experiences, another family could learn from us. We can help them avoid some of the mistakes that we made, or unknowingly. It's not our fault, we didn't know, but we can help them a little bit. And I know it helps, because their families did the same for us too.
Yeah, definitely.
So we got a Stephanie Luna. She's just read her comment right now. The media is not for us. They make our loved ones look like criminals and protect the ones who murder. Sending love and strength to you, Justice, for Jacob Dominguez. We have Anne Marie. She asked about the officer. If you guys were notified when he was back in the streets, she's assuming no. And
no, we didn't find out till we didn't find out anything about that man. That man is supposedly from our own city.
Wow.
Yes, he's from our own city, grew up here, went to school here. He was the same age as Jacob. That we do know. He's still an officer, and shortly after Jacob was murdered by him, he was promoted. So right now we have a petition that we're trying to sign to get him out and fired, because he's not only terrorized our community, he's also affected a lot of other people, and whether it was use of force or excessive force. He's done that to another couple here that it was all over nationwide. It got publicity about him authorizing use of force at a hotel when they were they had a noise complaint at 8:45 in the evening. So that couple, they suffered a lot of trauma as well, and they were beat up. They were beat up with the tasers, the batons, the rubber bullets, and over a noise complaint. And they were celebrating one of their birthdays. I can't remember which ones, but and that's when I found it was Mike Pina. And when I seen it and I heard the name, and I said, this guy got promoted and he's out there still brutalizing our community. How can we have this guy still policing our community? He needs to be out. He needs to be out. And there is other stories that people that knew him where he used to patrol and saying they've had encounters with him that he was an asshole. So,
I find that interesting that he's from the town, from the city, and that he's around the same age as Jacob. That's weird. Okay, can you share his name again? Okay, for those watching, if anybody can help, we are trying. They have not been able to find a photo of this officer. Can you share his name again, and just nice and clear, if there's anybody who can help us do some research or has any other means to help? Just gonna throw it out there.
His name's Mike Pina, Pina.
Okay, yeah. So if anybody, I find this happening a lot. These killer cops that people are unable to even find photos of them, and we need to make sure that people know who they are. So, also for any other families, real quick, I am working on a gallery for our loved ones for the Voices of Strength website. So if you have if you want to include your loved one, send me a picture. But I'm also doing one of the killer cops. So posting those as well. You can feel free to send those to me or the Voices of Strength page, because it is important that their faces are out there, connected to their names, connected to the people they have killed.
Yeah, the only closest thing we had to even trying to see what he looked like was in that televised video that they had released for the couple that got beat up. But I can't figure out which one's him. They actually showed it, and then when they went on Good Morning America and showed it, they had to black out the faces or his, and so it's hard to figure out which one was him. But yeah, so
it's out there. We'll find him.
It's out there. Yeah, these cops are crazy. I mean, they were nobody. It's I don't know. I mean, we've never been able to see what he looked like since day one. So it's been 3 years. Gosh. And then to find out that they blocked his image on that video, we went through a lot of crap with
that's bullshit. I do want to address, okay, so we have Patrick. He's asking, what does the family hope comes out for this besides true justice for Jacob? Are there any laws you would like to see passed or things in that nature?
Yeah, we definitely would like to see him fired. That would be great. We'd like to see the DA that's handled the Rosen out, because he doesn't, there's no true investigation in that department when it comes to these officer involved shootings. We need changes in that. We need, as far as, there is a civil suit that's not going to bring him back, but it would be nice to see that he's affected in some way. I mean,
Yeah.
even if it's taking his job. Excuse me. You know, again, it's never going to bring him back, but it's also maybe saving another family from losing a loved one in this community because he's out there policing our community.
Absolutely.
So definitely don't want him here to have another family in our community go through this. And as far as changing anything, definitely want to see just de-escalation laws, you know, changing that. I know that the one passed, but to me, it was never enough. And I can't remember the number of it because I stopped following it and supporting it once I knew that the killings were going to still continue. So it needs to be, and there needs to be more strength in there, and impacted families need to be involved when they're going to the table with these people up at the state. You know, they need to be involved. They need to get family up in there to, you know, tell our stories. So, and not law enforcement, because it's never going to work for us. So they're always going to water it down or take the teeth out of it. So those laws need to be stronger. They need to be stronger, de-escalation, because they could have had time, and they should have had time to de-escalate and analyze it and take him and be accountable if he was involved in anything. And that's what the criminal justice system's for, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, thank you for sharing that. Great points. You know, even sharing about the two prior ones. So the two legislation that has changed. You mentioned the 1421 earlier. Is that all you guys got? Was that 9-page?
no, the when we did get the 1421, it was almost a year after it passed. It took a year for us to get anything from that. And we got, I want to say it's about 190 pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 9 pages was the DA report.
DA report. Yeah.
Okay.
Which was bullshit.
Yeah. No, it's really hard. You know, some families don't ever get anything, and sometimes we get crumbs and we have to take it and work with it. But I try to this recently, I'm in a better mindset to where I know there's, you know, the evidence is there, like for other loved ones too. It's there. It's just a matter of us getting to it. And you know, I just want to remind people, don't give up. Don't give up, because we're still going to be here 10 years from now, whether they like it or not. I'm going to hit a couple comments. Nanis Munoz, is that the sister?
Yes, that's her sister.
Yeah, I love you and miss you, babes. Yeah, I knew that was the sister since what you shared earlier. So much love to you, and I'm so sorry for your loss of your brother. Jeremy Morales, we love you, Rosie. Justice for Jacob. Okay, we got some more impacted families. I'm on here, I just connected with her yesterday. I feel like there's some days that I meet new families or new to me and families through here, and it's, you know, it's just messed up. And yeah, so I want to also remind everybody that there is a petition going on to get this officer off the streets. And the link, I'll share the link on here too. I shared it on a couple other posts, but if you guys can please sign the petition, please share it. And this Jacob's story is included on there, and the story that Rosie shared about the couple that got brutalized from them is also on there for you guys to see. Let's see. Fuck Mike Pina. Yeah, a lot of people, supportive comments. Let's see, there are. Yeah, so Rosie, I just tell, because there's so many comments when we do these, I just encourage you guys to go ahead and read through them later when you get the chance. I know sometimes these kind of things, they take a lot of energy from people to get on and share, and it's a lot. So just when you have the convenience of doing it. And then we have Miss Grant. She shared the video within the comments of the couple that was brutalized. So for anybody that wants to check that out, and as we spoke about that already, thank you for sharing that as well. Let's see, we so many comments. Thank you guys for watching and staying on with us. And then all power to the families. That was the last one on here. So all power to the families. So is there anything else you want to share or hit about this that we haven't covered yet? And one more thing, and then also besides that, I would ask you just, a message to share with people watching or maybe even impacted families.
I mean, we've been struggling here on our own city, and Lori and the rest of the families that are with us, Sandy, we struggle. There's so many families that we struggle here with. We're trying to make a difference here with those families. With a lot of the families we work with are had mental health crises. And so they were taken out instead of getting help, they were killed. So we're trying to do locally, we're trying to make some changes and get involved in the statewide one as well. But, you know, it's hard, but it's something we have to keep pushing for. We have to be able to, we want to change, we want to be able to change the way arbitration, once an officer has been fired here before, but they were able to hire him back because of the arbitration process. And
Wow.
so, you know, we need to be able to change that, you know. So what if Mike Pina gets fired and the arbitration allows him to come back in, you know? We need to change that. We need to change shit like that needs to change. You know, it's just crazy here. And even, you know, after George Floyd had passed and was murdered, you know, the whole mayor here is full of shit, you know, taking a knee and doing all this and that. And, you know, and yet, you know what, you have them in your own backyard and you don't acknowledge. They've never met with these families on a round table just to talk about what we want. And we're not being radical. We want a simple conversation with you to meet with us to see where we're at and what we want, you know, as families impacted. But they don't, not the mayor, not the chief then, now, sorry, but Texas got Chief Garcia. He didn't do shit, you know, so
Yep.
he okayed everything that these officers did, you know. I mean, even the
Yep.
officer when the riots were going on downtown, the protesting, should I say, not riots, protesting, you know, and they, the officer that shot with the rubber bullets and managed to really hurt somebody physically was, you know, oh, he's a good boy. You know, come on. These are officers that are sworn to serve and protect, not sit here and brutalize us and hurt us and do the thing. So Officer Garcia, Texas, yeah, you better stay up on your game with him because Texas, they have him now.
Oh yeah, so he's the one that just went to Texas. Okay. So a mother, yeah, a mother who she was on episode number 2. She had asked me about him, and I needed to get back to her about that. But thank you for bringing that up too. So just another example of how they switch these dirty people, like they can go to place, and it's not just the cops, as you shared, you know, it could be even the higher up.
Yeah, he retired here and went to Texas. And so good luck with that, because he's never met with any of the families here. So if any families that are impacted there and think they're going to get a meeting with him, I doubt that would even happen, because he's never done it here for our families that have lost. And it's been asked, or the mayor, then no, they don't do anything here. They try to sweep it on the rug like we don't have a problem here. We do have a problem here. Just it's really hard because they get threatened or they get harassed. Even when we had Jacob's service, we had it in a big church. It's one of the biggest churches here in Santa Clara County. And they had actually went out of their way to call the head pastor to not have his service there, to scare them. And they actually did scare him. But one of the pastors that worked side by side with Jacob and mentored him, I'm thankful that he hasn't stepped away from our family. A lot of other pastors have, but he hasn't. He actually stepped up for us, and we were able to still hold it in that. And up until the day that we were having his service, they were still trying to threaten, saying that it was, you know, going to be this, going to be that. I mean, they tried to take away our goodbye to him or our memorial or whatever we could do to, you know, give him a beautiful service. They tried taking that away by calling the police. I don't know who called, but the officers called and take that away from us.
Gosh, that is so sickening to hear.
Yeah, they followed us. They followed me. I followed them right back. you know, and they just did things that were just ridiculous. But it's, you know, it's something you have to have that thick skin for, and to keep going, because they did do it. They followed me. They were taking pictures at the cemetery while his wife was grieving. You know, just the bullshit we go through to try to scare us, to intimidate us and do the things they did. It didn't stop. It's not stopping me. It's not stopping me from doing that.
Gosh, see, and that's something as I speak to more families, as we do this series more, these details, the little details, they just add to it. And, someone just commented, wow, they even try to, go after the pastor. Like, how low is that? Trying to
Intimidated. Yeah, intimidated from having the services there. That, this was going to be a gang fest basically, because it was a known gang member, and it was crazy because once we had the service, the people that held the service for us and helped us usher and helped us do the videos, and they cried. They said we were touched. That's not what we saw on TV. That's not what we saw here. The media. Yeah. What we saw here was a loving person and a man that everybody loved. They were. So yeah, they just try to do more. They didn't already dehumanize him, but then they try to, wreck his going away and his service. It was just like, yeah. I was shocked that even happened.
Yeah, and then at that time, so fresh, so like that's some bullshit. I do want to, share. People will look at people like us thinking we're bad or we don't like the cops, that we just, are all this shit. But then when the truth comes out and when someone can actually look at it with their fucking brain on, that's how I like to say it. But if they actually listen to our stories, where's the evil and the malicious acts coming from? They're not from us. Gosh, it's so, I get pissed off every time I talk to new families and get these details. And, I know every single family on here can relate to them. But so for me, I'm like, okay, that pisses me off, but it adds to the fire. Like you said, we're not going away.
Nope, I won't. I don't care if there's 3 of us, 1 of us, I'm not going to stop. And again, I don't just do this for Jacob. I mean, I do it for his kids that are growing up in this community, my kids, my grandkids, the next families, people that look like him, and his quote and the documentary he wrote, because he hesitated on doing that documentary for the longest, but he did it anyways. And he said if he can make an impact with youth that struggled like he did, then he wanted to do it, Yeah. And his quote was, when someone sees somebody like me, I want them to see the good. And that really gets to me, because that's how Jacob felt. He was a good person. He was a really good person and a good-hearted. He had a heart of gold. And so, like I said, I don't just do this for him, but I do it for all of us and for his friends and, family.
Yeah, no, thank you. And, I've seen that quote since, the beginning when you guys started sharing it. And, like even right now, it just gave me chills, like chills throughout the body. And, that's real. That's what's real, not what the cops are saying, not, the narrative they had against him. That's, that's the real person right there, who you've shared with us. You guys know him best. You're his family. I'm just going to read a couple of the last comments. And if anybody else has more, you feel free to add. People that watch later, you guys have questions or comments, feel free to leave them. I'm going to hit Miss Grant. The Fraternal Order of Police protects them from incident, attorney, advice, contact with the city, and everything. Yes. Let's see, Patrick, God bless you and your family for sharing Jacob with us. Fight, fight, fight. But please find some way to do it and still live life. Easier said than done. I know. Also an impacted family member. Justice for Jacob Dominguez. And then let's see. They try to intimidate the victims' families in any way they can. From Regina Cardenas. Yes. Gang stalking again. There's no depth that these people won't go. Anne Marie Grant, you're so brave for continuing to fight for change and sharing Jacob's truth. Let's see. And then they're being referred to as demons. And I believe that is very fitting. And then we got Barbara Arakamoto. And so what happens to them, they don't understand where we are coming from.
Exactly. Until you're in our shoes, you don't understand. And that's, yeah.
Gosh. Oh, goodness. Well, I thank you for coming on, sharing everything you have, for being in this fight, for being a strong fighter here. Is there anything else you want to share before we close this up?
No, not really. Just can't stop, won't stop. Keep on
Can't
pushing.
stop, won't stop.
Yep.
Keep pushing. All right. Well, thank you for joining. I will see you on Facebook. That's usually what I tell people because I'm on Facebook with you guys. But
Thank you. Thank you for doing it. Thank you for having a platform for all of us families. And it means a lot to us too to keep putting our stories out there. Not, so thank you. I know it's hard for you too because you're an impacted family as well, but thank you. We
Yes.
appreciate you.
Thank you, and you're welcome. And so this recording it'll remain on Facebook Live, and then it'll also be on YouTube with the other one. So, in the future, if anybody who is not on Facebook, you want to share Jacob's story with them, they want to ask what happened, I'll give you that link so we don't. Another thing about this show is, we don't have to keep repeating every single time, if we could easily send this and, you just shared a whole bunch of your truth and how things went down. And then for other impacted families, I'm booking families to share their truths. So contact me if you guys would like to set up a week that we can highlight and focus on your loved one as well. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close up. You have a good rest of your night, and everybody watching, thank you guys. And you guys have a good night too.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
You too.
Thank you. Closing up. Bye, guys. And take care.